Thanks for watching this week's Cardinals Nest. This is the show where we talk St. Mary's University athletics. We are coming to you from the Jerry and Pat Pappenfuss Multimedia Lab in Aquinas Hall on the campus of St. Mary's University. I'm the faculty athletics representative for the Cardinals, Dean Beckman. My co-host is our sports information director, Donny Nadeau. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Cardinals Nest. And Donny, hot off the press, we have the 2023 St. Mary's Sports Hall of Fame class, and we get to unveil it here on the Cardinals
Yeah,
Nest.
pretty exciting to finally be able to announce who we're inducting this year. It's a big class. We've got 5 people going in. Bruno Bucciarelli, 76 grad, and then we've got George Druches, who played basketball and baseball here and coached basketball, baseball, and golf while he was at St. Mary's, 78 grad. We've got Mark Staub, a goalie for the men's hockey team. He's an 88 grad. And then a pair of fast pitch softball players, Jennifer Ship Stewart and then Jennifer Gutterman Becker, both 06 graduates, and certainly all 5 of them very deserving of this honor, and really excited to go to the ceremony on March 11th at the Visions Event Center here in Winona, and just kind of, for a lot of them, it'll be a good chance for me to catch up. You know, I've been here so dang long, and these people getting inducted, I got to watch them all play, so I'm really excited to be a part of that ceremony, and looking forward to bringing our athletic director Brian Sisson on to talk a little bit about the ceremony and really about this class.
Yeah, a little bit later we'll have Brian on our program. He's our interview segment today. So, but first we'll kind of get you caught up on this past week in St. Mary's athletics. I will say, Donny, back to the Hall of Fame thing briefly. If you graduated in 06, played softball, and your first name was Jennifer, your chances of getting in the Hall of Fame were very good.
Well, the thing is, you notice how I kind of paused. Well, I knew him as Jenny
Right.
and Jennifer, or Jenny with an I and Jenny with a Y, and they were Ship and Gutterman at the time rather than their married names now. But really exciting because both of them did marry St. Mary's athletes, both hockey players. So it'll be great to get a chance to visit with them in March.
Yeah, and safe to say, starting with our January shows, February shows, we'll talk a lot more about those Sports Hall of Fame inductees. So now let's get to this past week in St. Mary's athletics. And Donny, we can talk about cross country one final time on the show this year. The North Central, NCAA North Central Regional was the last event for the Cardinals, and the weather changed a little bit. It was a little bit chilly for that up in Northfield.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to talk to Coach Snyder just to see what his opinion of the weather was. A lot of these runners do like it when it's a little bit cooler, but I'm sure they didn't like, wind chills in the teens and probably a frozen ground. But, as always, if we're going to talk about cross country, we certainly have to talk about Grant and Schneider. He did a very good job individually, finishing in the top 50, which is really outstanding when you consider how many runners there were. And the women placed 26th overall, which is great. Emily Kern, back for her final meet of the season, did an outstanding job. Everybody had PRs. Which was always what you kind of shoot for, as we had talked to Coach Snyder when he was on, in that you gear up for the MIAC and the NCAA events, and obviously they were ready to go on Saturday in the NCAA Regional.
Yeah, and from a team standpoint, it was University of Wisconsin Whitewater taking things on the men's side and Carleton on the women's side.
Yeah, good to see an MIAC school taking that. Now they get the automatic berth into the NCAA championships, which will be a great representation of the MIAC.
Yep. On last week's Cardinals Nest, we told you how the men's basketball season got underway. They had their first home game this past weekend, and Donny, it was a really exciting game as they took on Augustana College out of Illinois, Division III Augustana, and it was kind of a strange game in that Augustana jumped out to a big lead. St. Mary's fought back. Augustana jumped out to another big lead in the second half, and St. Mary's really made a game of it at the end. It was Augustana ultimately winning, though, 81-73, but it was closer than what the score indicates.
Absolutely, and I talked to Coach Fano afterwards, and one of the things I made the comment to him was that that team never quit.
No.
They were down by 22 points in the second half, and yet they never got down. They never started chirping. They kept battling, and really they've got it to 7 late in the game. Really, they just ran out of time. it was certainly a tough hole. You don't want to be down by 20 against anybody, but they battled back, and I think if you added another 5 minutes to that game, we might be talking about a victory, because they really do battle. And Raheem Anthony, a great game from him with a double-double, and just he's just a beast out there, and really fun to watch. But you got to see that there are some other pieces to this puzzle. Jabari Sawyer and Brayton Beisman and Owen Ziegler. There's a lot of different people who are going to produce for this team, and if they're going to be successful, that's what they're going to need. Because there's no secret that Raheem is the straw that stirs the drink. But when you've got all those other pieces, I think it's really going to help the Cardinals overall in making it much harder for other teams to defend them.
Right, and they'll get Noah Frechette back soon, and so I think once they play together a little bit more, get all these pieces going together, you can see the talent is certainly there.
Absolutely, and there is a lot of talent there. It's going to be an exciting season to watch them.
Yep, no question. So we'll tell you a little bit later on who their next contests are against. Also, women's basketball, we'll touch on that a little bit later as they open play this weekend on the road. But Donnie, let's go to hockey now. Women's hockey still not having any luck. They're now 0-6 on the season. A couple of tough games though this past weekend against Hamlin, losing 3-0 and 4-1. Hamlin, again, one of the better teams in the area.
Yeah, and we talk all the time about how good the MIEC is, and right now the Cardinals are playing by far the toughest teams in the conference. They're facing right off the bat. Hamlin was one of those teams that received votes in the latest USCHO.com poll. So everybody that they've faced so far, their first 6 opponents, have all been recognized in the national poll. And you add Augsburg to that this week, and you add Gustavus to it after Thanksgiving, and you're talking about playing the best of the best in the conference right off the bat. Just like we'll talk about with the men, the key right now is they've got to generate some offense. You look at the 3 teams, and in the games that they played this weekend, we did not have very many goals. Women were shut out 3-0 and lost 4-1. So they've got to generate more offense. It's just that simple. It doesn't matter what Celeste Rimstad or Jordan Keeley do in goal. If we're not going to score any goals, it's going to be tough to win games. So that's got to change. And it's still early in the season. And they've just got to keep battling. That's all they can do.
Yeah, and that was something I pointed out too with the men's team. Right, still very early in the season. You look at the conference record; it's 1-1. Right,
exactly.
And so really, you got the whole season ahead, even though things didn't go their way this
weekend.
weekend.
And that's part of why you have a non-conference schedule and why you schedule the teams that you do. It's to prepare you for what's coming up in the conference season. And you're right, the men's overall record 1-4-1 doesn't sound very great, but you know what? In the MIC, where it really matters, they're 1-1, and that's where you want to be. You want to, I've always said if you can split every single conference series that you play, you're going to have a great chance of being in the playoffs. Right now, they split against Hamlin and are sitting right where they want to be. Now they certainly have some tough tests coming up, but take away the overall record and kind of wash that aside, and they're doing just fine.
And just like how the women are starting out with a tough schedule, the men played Superior this past weekend from one of the best conferences in all of Division III.
Absolutely, and it's great that we play those teams, and I think that it's real important that that they continue to have strong opponents, because that only makes you better.
Right. So let's take a look at this upcoming weekend game now, and after we do that, we'll bring Brian Sisson in, our athletic director, to kind of get us up to speed on what's going on in the department. So, Donnie, what do we have this weekend?
How nice is that? It looks like a really nice, easy SID week for me. We've got
it's never easy, Donnie. Never.
Obviously, it's going to be a very big weekend. We've got Augsburg for both the men and women. The men will be home on Friday, then on the road on Saturday, and then you flip-flop that for the women. Both the Augsburg men were in the NCAA semifinals a year ago, and they're ranked number 5 in the country right now, so they're going to be a huge test for the men. And then on the women's side, they are also receiving votes this year. They were 13th last week, and so another solid opponent for our women's hockey team. And then our basketball teams, kick off conference play this weekend on Saturday against Gustavus. It'll be the first game for the women's team. We kind of hinted that this is their opener. When you only have 3 non-conference games, it's tough because they're going to Florida in December. So they they really haven't had a chance to play a non-conference game before kicking off conference play. So it'll be a great test for them. Gustavus always traditionally a very, very good team. And then if you move ahead, which isn't on the graphic, but on Tuesday is a very busy week. We've got both basketball teams will take on McAllister. The men will be home and the women will be on the road. And then our men's hockey team will play Lawrence at home on Tuesday as well. So right before the Thanksgiving break, all 3 of them decided to make, while Donnie had a great week this week of no games, they just decided to put them all on one day on Tuesday. So it'll be a busy day before the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yep, no doubt about it. But that'll make Thanksgiving all the more enjoyable for you.
That's right.
All right, so that's what's coming up in St. Mary's Athletics. And now we welcome in Brian Sisson, our athletic director. Brian, thanks for joining us on the Cardinals Nest. And Donnie and I thought this was like a perfect week to have you on the show because the fall seasons have pretty much come to an end now. Yeah. The winter seasons, as you just heard us talk, are just getting ramped up. So I wanted to get caught up on sort of the state of St. Mary's athletics, and this is as good a time as any to do so. So welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it as always. And I know Donnie's joking, earlier about, hey, how many games in a season or in the week and stuff. We talk all the time about, hey, how to make things work in a given week. But I think I want people to know, this Hall of Famer, just because we don't maybe have games at home doesn't mean not anything is going on. And so I think, again, with that, it's just always something going on.
Brian, talk a little bit, this is year 4. Talk a little bit about what are your, I guess your biggest accomplishments, what you feel most proud about, and then what has been the biggest change from the day you took over to where you're at now?
Well, the biggest change is probably how much hair I have left. No, I think, again, Donnie, 4 years, sometimes feels like it's been a couple weeks, and other times it feels like it's been 30 or 40 years. And so I think for me, first part, the accomplishment piece, I think a couple different pillars that we try to pride ourselves on, and obviously coming in here, looking to, hey, I think from a leadership standpoint, trying to kind of make it your own collectively. But I think one part of that would be, our student athletes and the amazing things they're doing. So for me, from the academic piece, through COVID and everything, something maybe none of us obviously, signed up for, but obviously that's played a big role, in my time here and everyone's time here. But I think for me, the academic piece obviously is huge. We've had back-to-back years, our strongest cumulative GPA for our student athletes, a 3.32 followed by a 3.36, phenomenal. So I think that for me is something, and again, I like to think, hey, obviously, from time to time, everyone obviously being different, but that's something that, hey, is great from a university standpoint, coach standpoint, that not necessarily worrying about, but our student athletes are really performing in the classroom, and that's ultimately why they're here. I think the other piece, from a service dynamic, obviously doing a lot of great things in the community. I know, last year kind of launching this initiative as far as service hours, and getting some NCAA accolades, which is great. And I know we're on the the path to doing some good things this year as well. So I'm very happy about that. From just I think enhancement, and I know, Donnie, we say this a lot, and I use this term a lot, modernizing kind of St. Mary's athletics and kind of taking it to another level, and being innovative, and whether that's, hey, some great things to be able to do to enhance the student athlete experience. Obviously, generous benefactors have helped us do that, but just whether it's facilities, day-to-day things, travel experiences, you name it, I think we've definitely come some way. Not to say there's not still things to do, not to say, hey, we had a staff meeting this morning, and hey, other things I always provide updates on, but I think that's been fantastic. The alumni engagement piece is very important, and then I would just say, from a competitive piece, hey, obviously still work to do. Kind of when I came up here, or when I came here, and with university leadership, hey, we want to be in that mix, in the conference tournament every year for all of our programs. And so I always keep saying, we've seen some great, I think parts of obviously the department, some firsts, hey, from men's basketball a couple of years ago to some things with women's hockey and women's soccer and baseball in the NCAA tournament, like fantastic moments that are etched in my head, and just great experience. But also, hey, how do we do that across the board? How do we do it consistently? But I want to want to try to kind of get away from, hey, the first time in 20 years, the first time, ever, or this, to, hey, the first time since last month or last season or last year. So that to me is important. Again, a lot going into 4 years, hard to summarize that in a couple minutes, but those are kind of things I think I'm proud of. All that being said, a lot more work to do. Yeah. So
I think one of the things I've noticed in the 4 years is the amount of sponsorships of St. Mary's athletics, and I know you played a huge role in that. We have so many sponsors now that we don't really want to get into the specifics for fear of leaving someone out, but that's been, sort of was a goal of yours, I know, and we certainly have a number of businesses in the community that are contributing now to our athletic programs.
Yeah, no, Dean, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think obviously just background and hey, obviously as a leader of the staff, you're doing a little bit of everything, right? Mm-hmm. For me, from just background and knowledge, hey, that's kind of where I kind of came up, so to speak. I think for me, that's vastly important. Higher ed landscape, everything else, dollars coming in, whether trade or monetary, whatever it is, that's important for college athletic departments to thrive and survive on. And so I think for me, not only, hey, potentially some new and those who can help us within the Winona surrounding community, but also our current partners, and maximizing and incentivizing and just making those even better collaborative relationships. And so, examples with some of the special events we've done with, the icebreaker event, that's something that, hey, kind of got launched through, some support there. I think for me, some of the partnerships, we were talking about a little bit earlier offline, the Under Armour piece, kind of getting our whole department on one kind of brand and really kind of marketing that St. Mary's piece, which I think, again, end of the day, student athlete is here for their ultimate overall St. Mary's experience. Academics being at the highest, but I think those other things, the student athlete experience, hey, everyone be on the same page, looking the same, feeling the same, hey, you look good, you play good, no. But that stuff, it all helps. It only can help. And so that was one piece of it, Dean. The other piece was the Mayo Clinic Health System. And obviously, Mayo is everywhere entwined within, university campus, not only from a couple of years ago, but now and moving forward. And so that is huge, for us to be able to have a team doctor, another athletic trainer. Again, especially going through all things dynamics of COVID and stuff, that is huge. And so, again, as I always say, there's so many different ways to be supportive of St. Mary's and give back and different things. Hey, sometimes it's coming to the game. Sometimes, hey, it's a donation. So many ways, but it doesn't always necessarily have to be a generous donation gift. There's different ways to be involved. And so I appreciate you saying that. I think obviously more that we can do, but we are only as good as those who support us.
Brian, talk a little bit, we mentioned it, and as Dean got to put it, we unveiled the Hall of Fame class for 2023. Talk a little bit about the process that went into it, and then about the event itself, because it really has changed from what it used to be. Back when we used to have it in our gym and it was part of M Club Weekend, now it's the Cardinal Excellence Fund Dinner and Hall of Fame ceremony. Talk a little bit about the class and then about the event itself.
Yeah, I think first off, obviously talking to said Hall of Famer here, so which is fantastic. Always bring it up. But I think for me, it was more about really, at the end of the day, to be a student athlete. Let's just talk about that. Being the top 1% of all levels, and even above beyond that, if you're in the Hall of Fame, you probably obviously did some good things, and hey, on the athletic side as well. But it's just such a honor to be a part of that. And hey, obviously it's not only the athletic piece. Hey, we've got Donny here, administrators, other ways to be a part of it. But I think for me, it's such a tremendous honor. Donny, you've instilled in me from day one, how important, hey, everything else I've gotten, this is so important. And so for me, being in other places, knowing I'm probably not going to get in any, sport Hall of Fame from my sport experience, but just how important it is, And so I think to make it that important, for me, just again, and not, hey, prior, again, I think, predecessors and everything else, it's just, hey, how do we kind of keep evolving, moving the needle, take it to the next level? And for me was that signature event. And so off campus, in Winona, surrounding community, in person, just a great way to highlight all things that we're doing with athletics. And the big part of it is obviously those inductees. And so obviously COVID kind of threw a wrench, getting to where we could finally, have it in person. But I think, last year was a fantastic, first step. We had about 175 individuals. 3 inductees was a great experience. And now, hey, you add 5 very deserving candidates for inductees for this year. Donny and I were talking about is, hey, we might have to be in a position where we're turning people down. And I think that's a position we want to be in. And so great representation, obviously a lot of different sports, I think unique. I think there'll be some highlights in regards to, hey, 50 years in Title IX and what that's meant, women in sport, as well as some two-sport, three-sport, in Bruin, and probably even more we don't even know about. But I think all of that is lending itself a lot of representation. Our coaches get involved, our partners get involved, alumni, family, friends. I'm not going to spoil. I'll leave some surprises to come, but some great inductees of those inductors, or inductees who are coming. And so I think it should be a fantastic night. I think a great template we put in place. And hey, how do we maximize that and have a sold-out event every year?
And just speaking, I mean, Dean, you can too, because you were the MC last year, but it was a really fun event. It was great to see people. It was a great way to connect with old friends, and for me to get to talk to people that, I got to talk to all of the inductees, and I actually have seen all of them play, which was really cool to just get back and talk to Marnie Orthy and Tyler Stevenson and just kind of relive their time here. It's really a fun event.
No, it really is, and I like to see the current student athletes get to know and mingle a little bit with the Hall of Famers, because I think it's good for both sides to get to know one another a little bit. So definitely a great event. Another thing I wanted to bring up with you, Brian, the improvement in facilities. During your 4 years, and even just most recently in the hockey rink, we've got a lot of new signage and everything. That's also been kind of a big priority of yours as well.
Yeah, again, I think it's just, as I mentioned before, kind of that modernizing of campus. I think, fortunate enough, hey, when I came in, we had this great, baseball, clubhouse going into, and then, hey, following with what we were able to do with softball, locker room. Every one of our teams having a year-round space to call home, which I think is very, important. Not everyone has that, and so kind of what that does. But then really for me is just, hey, not only kind of a look and feel, but also kind of telling our story. And so I think for me, over these last couple of years, you can't always do it at once, as much as, hey, and if there's someone out there who wants to do it at once, you let me know. But I think it's just in stages, priorities, how we, again, having as much impact on the whole student-athlete experience as we can. But no, I mean, we've been blessed and fortunate with some of the things coming in from, obviously I talked about, locker rooms and stuff. We're renovating 3 more locker rooms in time for next, fall academic year. Really for us, pretty much, after that, they've done just about every one of our spaces, which I think is fantastic. I think from a university standpoint, benefactor standpoint, obviously with the hockey programs, blessed as we are, to kind of have that, hey, Division I experience at a Division III level, which we talk about a lot. Outside with baseball and softball and Donny, hey, the greatness that was, I think, us hosting this track and field championship this past spring, and just really, I think of a way to just, I think people taking notice, not only, hey, from a competitive academic service, but also, hey, coming to campus and like, hey, it's a different feel, it's a different look. And that stuff's important. That stuff's important to our current student athletes, our future student athletes, prospective student athletes. And so all of that, again, doesn't happen without, the great support of others. But again, I appreciate it. And I think for us, it's just trying to have that consistent look and branding. I know, hey, the university just went through a rebranding. Like, how can we do that as best for us?
And I know last year we had the opportunity to showcase the track and field championship for the MIAC, and that was all hands on deck, and even more hands that we tried to scrounge up last minute, right, to help. It kind of takes everybody to make something like that, something big like that, run at a conference level.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, hey, everything just kind of came together, right? Even just that morning of, hey, how much time do you have before fans get here? Okay, we still got some things to do, but, Donny and
hanging up signs.
Hanging up signs, bleachers going in, everything. But I mean, I truly feel, outside, I mean, what we've been able to do, and now, hey, great morning snow this past night, and great kind of wintry feel today. Obviously, a lot of those windscreens and some banners and signs are down now, but when it is all up, it just looks great. I mean, ultimately, I feel like we have the best backdrop in America for college athletics and the bluffs and the surroundings, but when you add that and everything's looking aligned, new and clean and look, that stuff's important, Again, not any more important is, hey, our people, our staff, our student athletes, but to me, it's just how can we do to enhance the student athlete experience? And that's just one angle or one part of what we're trying to do on campus.
You know, you had mentioned the volunteering and the service piece that we kind of have instilled as a department. But I think that what's really impressed me about our student athletes is it's not a chore for them. It's not, oh, I got to go do 15 hours or whatever it may be. They really have grasped this. Hey, let's give back and let's make sure that we're helping others. And I think that I think Coach Murray's got to get a little credit for that as kind of the spearheader for a lot of those opportunities. But it really is great to see our student athletes wanting to give back, not doing it because they have to do it.
Yeah, Donny, I think great point. I think, to Sarah, I think just, again, right, skill set, passion, everything, like a natural fit, and she's doing a great job with it. I would say in doing this, right, hey, somewhat of that kind of competitive and whatever else, but ultimately a lot of this stuff was being done before we kind of put anything on paper and, hey, like a goal of how many hours or whatever. Like, so many good service opportunities were already happening, by our student athletes and continue to happen. And so I want to make that clear. It's not just all of a sudden like, oh, hey, we started to give back. We have been doing that for years and years. And so I think that this is just a way now. And I think the cool things is, hey, in tracking this and getting the photos and the experiences and getting, hey, from partners or community folks who tell us just like, hey, thank you so much. My son is at local school here in town, and the baseball team came to play with him like at recess. Just like things like that matter. And I think hey, from prospective students all the way down to hey maybe a second grader, just to have that experience with a student athlete is fantastic. Yeah.
Last question. We got a few minutes left. Your wife and kids love to come up to a lot of the games, see them often. What's their favorite part of coming to a St. Mary's athletic event?
Probably the concession stand. Concession stand, eating up at foods at our dining halls. Yeah. Having that experience, I think just being on a college campus is such a great highlight and experience. And I think that's something that, again, right, I think what we do, hey, not for everybody, but you have to instill and involve your family. And so I think we've had some really fun times here lately. I know Landon, with our hockey team after a big win the last weekend, hey, had his Chuck-a-Puck, he won Chuck-a-Puck and got like, I think one of his a puck, signed, and then he got a jersey, giveaway, stuff like that. So it's starting to come that age where the oldest of mine, I can maybe keep at least through a hockey game, Soon enough, all three can come. But again, so much stuff on a college campus, but to have, Donny, 100 plus home events throughout the year to bring your kids to, it's pretty
I think
fun.
Real quick, the part of that too, and I'm glad you talked about that. The family aspect is that I think that the athletes truly appreciate the support of not everybody. They love the community to come and support them, but of our families. Yours. I know when my kids were little and they'd go in the locker room and they'd get an autograph stick or whatever it may be. The student athletes like to see our families and kind of adopt them into their team family. And I think that that's a really neat thing the fortunate thing for us as parents that we get to do here at St. Mary's is kind of raise our children on a college campus.
Sure, I think, they've got some gear. They talk about the Cardinals quite a bit. They think our Cardinals are just, legends and Hall of Famers in their own right, and just, again, so amazing. And so, again, what better way to surround, hey, your kids with the fantastic student athletes we have here. So.
They still Chicago Cubs fans though?
No, Landon is he's a Packers fan. He's like, oh my gosh, don't get me started. I know I'm a Bears fan, so nothing great really going on right now. But yes, they're kind of getting all that Minnesota, being close to Wisconsin instilled. So my dad doesn't like it. But.
All right, Brian Sisson, our athletic director, thanks for being on the show. We'll try to get you on again toward the end of the season here.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
All right, and thanks to AJ Ruskowski, our producer for today's show. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching the Cardinals Nest. We'll see you next time.